So we have this clip of Jesse Lee Peterson and David Pakman. Is it here?
You'll be able to
Gotta be the big one.
You can see very clearly where the you just fast forward it. You could skim it.
I love these guys.
Only worth is for a vote.
But I want to give it a little bit of context.
I want to go on Jesse's show.
All right, come on, let's listen. Here we go.
You are a progressive. What does it mean to be a progressive? What is that?
It's for progress and against stagnation and a return to values that are outdated and irrelevant in modern society.
And what type of progress? Give me an example of progress.
The reduction in incredibly damaging economic inequality, the push for a basic level of health care for everybody, regardless of ability to pay, a push for an economy that is not going to allow the richest to become endlessly richer while the poor continue to be poor. I mean, there's a long list. I mean, I think, the problem is that there's a lot. I'm not a Democrat, by the way. I've never been a Democrat. So if the idea is to get me to.
No, you are a progressive. So I'm asking about that. So let me ask. To pay.
Well, I didn't even finish answering the question. How long do we have? Because this is a very weird interview. We didn't even. I was trying to get you to tell me exactly what Trump had done to achieve those so-called achievements, and you moved on to the Democratic Party. It's a very strange interview. I've never experienced anything like it.
Well, that's the first time in life for everything.
No change in affect.
So-called sex reassignment surgery. And our tax dollars are paying for it, even though we don't agree with that at all. Is
we
that,
being who?
The conservative Christian people of this country.
Well, that's just a fraction of the population, right?
Is that progress when men are confused about their gender and women are confused about theirs, and now we're paying for it? Is that progress?
Are you a fiscal conservative, Jesse?
Answer that question, David. Is that progress?
Well, are you a fiscal conservative?
David, answer that question. Is that progress?
It's not an example of something that is or isn't progress, but the reason I'm asking whether you're a fiscal conservative
what would you
is
call that,
it's cheaper
David,
to pay for those procedures than to find and discharge every transgender member of the military. So if you're a fiscal conservative, and I've heard you say that you are, you should favor the cheaper option,
do we have
which
this
is
guy
paying
back
for
on the
those
show?
procedures and not paying for what it would cost to find and discharge all those transgender military members.
David, you're not here to communicate. I really appreciate you coming on. I'm going to let you go. It's a waste of time to talk to you. You're not communicating. You're acting like an idiot.
No, because you're asking bizarre questions
you're
and not
answering. You're acting like an idiot, and you're wasting my time. I appreciate you coming. All right, thank you for coming. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Hold on, leave it on.
Let him go. That's a progressive vote. All men who are progressive, or males who are progressive, are weak people.
Nice.
They are weak people. And why have these people on? It doesn't even make sense. They don't come to communicate because they're too insecure. And David Pakman is a very insecure progressive. Real men are not progressive. Progressives, whatever they are.
Yeah, so
I love Jesse. You haven't had him on, have you?
Oh, he'd be so good. He's so funny.
God.
I see the thing about progress.
I think he's asked me to go on his show, but I rarely go on anyone else.
Right, but why wouldn't you want him on your show?
I didn't say that. I didn't say I wouldn't want him on my show.
Okay.
Oh, whoa, Michael.
A culture war is probably a better fit.
He's unpredictable. That's one of the things for a late night stick by. But he's on YouTube, so he obviously knows the rules of the game.
No, he's very predictable. You never see him break.
So what David Pakman did there is sophistry. It's plain and simple.
Yes.
Ask a question about, is this progress? And then he deflects to fiscal conservatives should support this because it saves money. That's what? Okay, so like argument. throwing a body into the ocean saves money on funeral costs. We're not for that. Like we want proper waste disposal. What are you talking about?
Progress is you can move. That means move forward. You can progress off the edge of a cliff.
Right.
You can progress into a fire and burn to death. You don't always want to move forward for the sake of moving. Sometimes you want to regress and go backwards because backwards is where it's safer. So, or turn around and progress in a different direction. So that's the whole thing with progression for the sake of it.
What does it mean to turn? Is it transgress?
Yeah, I guess, right?
Yeah, to move sideways. Yeah, that's to transgress.
Sometimes we want to sidestep whatever's in front of us because it might be like either maybe it's a pit trip and you're going to walk into it.
You don't want to progress into a trap.
Yeah.
So that's the problem with people that claim, I am a progressive and I will always move us forward. If you're moving forward into the wrong thing, you're doing the wrong thing. Get out of that mindset.
So this is the main issue for us, especially, is there's a small handful of people that are willing to come on the show, and they're all the grifters. So when I'm not talking about you, the people.
Then why did you look in my direction?
I'm talking to you.
You're the guest.
So,
You've got a mullet, man, and it looks gorgeous for me.
Anarchists, libertarians, and conservatives, easy to book. They will come on and they will say, yes, no, maybe, I don't know, let's argue. Liberals are like, uh-oh, if I actually come on and they pull up sources, I'm screwed. The best example, and I will always give him the credit, shout out to Hunter Avalone, who came on this show, and we were talking, and I said, Joe Biden said, if you don't fire the prosecutor, you're not getting $1 billion. And he smugly goes, that never happened. And I said, yes, it did. Here's the video. And I played it. And he was just like, oh, like he had no idea.
Sure.
Most of these people like Pakman and even probably now Kalinske, who's like taking a turn. I don't know what his deal is. These liberal guys are just like, if I go on the show, I know what happens. They're going to pull up the sources. And then what do I say?
I don't think that's it at all, Tim. I don't think they think, some of them, but I think for some of them, it's also like, it's like for me going to a mosque. It's like, this isn't my house. Like, I don't belong there. And I think, you remember how during 2020, when Marion Williamson was supposed to go on Rubin Report, and he's hardly a hardball. He's not, he does softball. That's his thing. I do that same thing. Yeah. I want my guests to feel comfortable.
She bowed out.
And she bowed out.
You see what happened when she came on this show?
What? Was there more drama?
She nearly cried when we showed her the whiteness contract from that children's book. And I got her to inadvertently argue that Derek Chauvin should have never been convicted and should be released from prison.
Oh, wow.
And then she immediately backtracked and said, no, this is why they don't come on the show. Marion Williamson comes on and she says Republicans want to ban books. And I go, what, this one? And it's the white-handed devil saying the whiteness contract will kill your friends. And she was welling up in tears, covering her face, shocked, saying, what is this? She had no idea. Then I showed her the graphic book. Oh, she doesn't want to look at it. She can't look at the books they're giving kids because they're shocking and offensive. And then I asked her, if a person couldn't get a fair trial, should they go to prison? She says, no, of course not. So I said, if there was a person who was accused of murder and he's in a state, but the judge said there is no way you'll receive a trial in this state without someone knowing and being biased, should this person be put in trial? And she goes, no, of course not. And I went, like Derek Chauvin. And she went, oh my God. And then after the show was over, she was like, this is why I can't come on shows like this. Something said that effect. She goes, because you ask these questions and the TVs don't do this.
But the thing is, those aren't even gotcha questions.
No, it's a real conversation. That's
right. Like, think with those books, like that to me is the most egregious evil gaslighting, because we went back 5 years ago and I'm like, I know you kind of are conservative in your morals, but 5 years from now, they're going to be showing like pornography to kids and then telling you it's not happening. It's like, why would they do that? So disprovable. And here we are.
They said this. In 2000,
and the gaslighting is incessant.
In 2008, the argument against gay marriage was, I think it was 2008 when they were doing, was it Proposition 8 or whatever in California? The argument was it will lead to schools teaching children about gay sex. And the left was like, oh, shut up. And I remember all my friends being like, dude, we're talking about two people just having a private life. They're not going to be in your schools. But the conservatives were correct. They weren't arguing that arbitrarily they'd just start saying, we're going to bring, gay sex into schools. They were saying, if you have two adult men who are married and he's a teacher, the children are going to be exposed to this, and they're going to have questions about why his husband is showing up and who is that, because teachers' spouses may show up and pick them up for a ride or something. And it will result in the school making the argument. Literally where we are now is that Democrats are making the argument that they have to teach children about gay sex. And I'm not even talking about like love. I'm literally these books. One of the books, it's called, what's the, we don't have them in here because we moved studios. The one that explains scat to children.
There's a scat. Oh.
Yes, it explains it to children. And
can I say one sentence?
It's in the school libraries in the curriculum.
Can I say one sentence? Because I know there's one where they were talking about oral. There was the one clip, I bring this up all the time, when there's a Canadian reporter and he went back to North Korea. And in North Korea, when you talk to the guides, there's always two because they watch each other. And they're at the Ostertranch. There's an Ostertranch outside Pyongyang. And the reporter goes to his guide is like an older man, his 50s, I'd say roughly. And he goes, last time I was here, I asked you about gays and lesbians. And he goes, yeah. And you guys said, we don't have that here. And he goes, well, what about bisexuals? And this old North Korean just goes, what? So I was already at the point where like, okay, they're just showing like oral. And now you're like, I thought I caught up.
So
my God.
The argument is children need to learn about this because the teachers are gay. And so they're a part of society, and kids are going to see it. So now, and the conservatives were completely correct about what this was going to lead to.
Scat.
And it
In the book, it's got a glossary of terms, and one of them explains that some people, for gratification, will eat human waste. And it doesn't say don't do this. It doesn't say this is dangerous. It doesn't say there's no reason a child should be learning these things. But this book is what was the name of that book?
Trying to look it up.
Is that the one about the girl who?
No. That one's about the genderqueer book.
Genderqueer.
That's the one where she talks about how she was severely abused by her parents and made to defecate outside, and then they made her wear a used pad over and over again, and she smelled so bad that the counselors brought her in and scolded her for not taking care of her hygiene. And this is clearly not in the book, but anybody who reads it, who has any kind of logic, understands this poor young woman in this book, Genderqueer, was made to do her business outside by her parents. When she went to school and was going through puberty, they gave her used, dirty old pads. She draws pictures of them. She complained. She writes in the book how she smelled so bad. The counselor brought her in and scolded her and said, "You need to do something about this." And she was embarrassed. Clearly, what happens then is when she's hairy, she's unshaven, and the other girls are like, "You're gross and you smell bad." She says, "I wish I could be a boy," because the boys don't get insulted by the other girls for being stinky and hairy. So she internalizes this abuse from her parents that didn't properly teach her how to function in society, and then says, "If only I was a boy, then I could escape from this." And then she seeks out to get a sex change. And this is what they're giving to kids to explain why these people believe these things and feel this way, without actually telling the children, if your parents are making you wear 3-day-old crusted pads and you smell bad, you are being abused and you need help. But that's the book they're giving to kids.
Ian, how are you going to sit down and give these people the benefit of the doubt?
I'll tell you exactly. This is what I'm thinking about, because I think when people self-identify, when they put themselves in a mental cage by saying, I am a progressive, I am an anarchist, I am a Democrat, I am a Republican, that they're living in a sort of mental fear where they're like protecting themselves with this idea of what they think they are. And so these people are vulnerable because that's why they're identifying themselves as a protective field. So if they feel like you're not on their side, they're going to have a fear of you. But
you think Michael is claiming to be an anarchist because he's afraid?
I think it protects him from having to explain why he's not voting. So, for instance, exactly. It's a thing. Like, if you're truly an anarchist, you wouldn't label yourself at all. There would be no rules.
That's not what anarchism means. Private rules. It doesn't mean chaos.
But literally means without authority.
Yes.
Yeah, you wouldn't need to label yourself in a truly anarchist.
Anarchists play Monopoly, and you get the same amount of money at the beginning, and so on and so forth. I play chess.
I identify with that. I identify with your way of thinking quite a bit. But I think that labeling yourself.
I don't know what you think my way of thinking is, though.
That authorities can become very dangerous very quickly.
Authorities
so be very
illegitimate.
Thanks for watching this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to check out the live show Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. on this channel. Subscribe, and we'll see you all there.